If you struggle with social anxiety, or you find yourself in conversations scrambling for something to say, dreading that awkward silence, I want to encourage you today. What you need to remember is if you want to be interesting, you have to be interested. Now, this probably goes completely against what you believe, and that was the case for me. So you find yourself in a conversation, maybe you're meeting new people at a wedding or a party, and people talk about interesting things they've done. This person went on a gap year to Peru or something like that, and then you think, oh, it's come round to me. I haven't got a story as interesting as this person. What do I say? And then you can't think of anything because what they got up to on their gap year was really cool, and you don't have anything at the same level, or at least you don't think you do. But that's not how a good conversation works. And if you want the person to go away feeling like it was a good conversation, that's not how you do it. And I didn't realize this. I was doing this on dates and all sorts. You know, the person, you'd ask them a question and they tell you this cool story, and you think, because I hadn't traveled very much, it's normally travel, so it's very simple. All you do is ask questions. Now, you have to do this in a genuine way. This is basically a technique that works very well, but do it genuinely. If you're not interested, don't do it. And don't just do it like an interview. You're not just interviewing the person. So you can be a bit playful and add jokes in with this. But if you ever struggle for anything to say during the conversation, naturally you would have questions. So this person, you've just met this group of people, and this person said that they went to Peru. Now, instantly I'm thinking, I don't really like flying. I'm not scared of planes. I just don't like being sat down for long periods of time. So as soon as somebody says they've traveled anywhere, I instantly think, how long was that flight? Because the longest I've done is a 4-hour flight, and any more than that I don't like it. So straight away, that's a conversation in itself. So the first thing I would say is, how long was the flight to Peru? Because it sounds far away. Do you know what I mean? And then you could follow up and explain like why you've asked, because you hate flying. But even if you've got nothing interesting to say, you say, oh, how long was the flight? Then I'm wondering why they chose Peru. You know, you can go anywhere in the world, so why Peru? Oh, Peru because the ayahuasca ceremony. And then you say, oh, did you do it? Because I've heard they're horrendous. You know, you keep asking questions because you're genuinely interested in this person's story. Now, that person will go away from that conversation feeling amazing. People love to feel heard. And you can use this as like a pick-up artistry technique. And I would say don't do that, because that's manipulation. And these things do work, but you're trying to get something out of it. But this is just if you've got social anxiety, you're fearful around meeting new people and conversations. This is kind of your cheat code, your way of getting through the conversation and minimizing stress, because it can be very stressful for somebody that has social anxiety. So you just ask questions and show genuine interest. And you will find the conversation could go on for hours. You know, one question leads to another. The Peru thing, you could do 45 minutes of that. And before you know it, you're talking to the next person in the group and the conversation's flowing. So this is how you do it, because I know a lot of you struggle with social anxiety. And I'll give you a quick story where I've used this in my own life. I've found out about this because I struggled in that area, and I started implementing it, and my conversations were a lot smoother. And I had a job interview. This was around the time that, I'm not going to say certain words, but around the time that cold that everybody got around the world happened. And I decided to change my job. I wanted to be a delivery driver for a supermarket so I could get out and help people during that time. And during the interview, I kind of thought, oh, I wonder if it would work in an interview setting. So I went in, and I was the last interview of the day. And because it was, this shop their deliveries had tripled overnight pretty much, I think, because everybody went from going into the shop to ordering for delivery. And straight away I was like, how's he going to deal with that? Has he got loads of more vans? So the first question I asked him, I was like, oh, your orders have gone up massively. Have you got loads more vans? And straight away he was telling me how he's going to do it, because it was stressing him out. Do you know what I mean? Because he didn't have loads more vans. He was new to the job. He'd just become manager of this store. and he's got to figure out, they put him there so that he could solve the problem that the old manager couldn't solve. And he was stressed about it, and I could tell that. And then I would just say, he'd answer the question, no, we haven't got more vans. I was like, oh, so what's your plan to deal with that? And then he explained, and then I had another question, and the conversation just flowed. But I basically interviewed him for 45 minutes. I was just asking loads of questions, and he felt good being able to vent these things, because he's new manager, he's got to solve this problem. That's why he's employing new drivers. And I understood his predicament. You know, it's a hard time to get these deliveries out, and you're the man to solve the problem. And then after about 45 minutes, I realized he didn't basically know anything about me, and he gave me the job straight away on the spot. I was the last interview of the day, so he knew all of the other interviews he'd had. But it was because the conversation flowed. And for most job interviews, I mean, I normally do entry-level jobs. I'm not like I've got plenty of skills, but I'm not a skilled person for these jobs. So the only thing that matters is, can you hold a conversation? You know, are you easy to get on with? So during this interview, I just asked him questions, and I was genuinely interested. And that took up all the time, so he didn't really have time to ask me the questions, and then just gave me the job. So it's not always going to go like that, but I just thought that was interesting, that the ability to have a conversation and make people feel heard is basically more powerful than any qualifications. So when you do this, and if you are genuinely interested, you will make the person feel so important. People want to feel important in life, and you have the ability to do that, and that's kind of like a superpower. And they'll go away from that conversation and they won't forget that. They was like, because it's very rare, normally you have a conversation, that person tells you about their holiday in Peru, and then you tell them about your holiday in Turkey, and then that's it. You don't really go anywhere from there, because people are normally interested in themselves. But I already know my story. I rarely want to talk, I mean, I talk on YouTube quite a bit, but in conversations, I know my story. I want to hear their story. So it's kind of selfish, you know, oh, because when they ask you, oh, have you like been on holiday recently? I kind of stall the conversation, because I genuinely want to know about their ayahuasca ceremony or whatever they got up to in Peru. And deep down, they'll go away from the conversation feeling, they won't remember. If you just tell them about your trip to Turkey, they won't remember that. But if you really get deep into their trip to Peru, they'll remember that. So I hope that makes sense. So I've got a Bible verse that illustrates this. James chapter 1 verse 19. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. So be quick to listen. You know, you've got social anxiety because you feel like you should be doing the talking. But a conversation, if you're doing it correctly, should be mainly listening. So be quick to listen, slow to talk, ask a question, and be quick to listen again. And what this does is it shifts the focus, because being socially anxious is a me problem. You know, you think, I'm going to look silly if I say the wrong thing. It's going to be awkward for me if there's an awkward pause or an awkward silence. That's very selfish. That's all the focus is on you. But when you take this approach, it puts the focus on the other person, and it makes them feel important, and that's good. And it takes the stress and the worry off of you. So give this a try next time you're in a social situation that would normally be quite stressful. And there'll be a little bit of resistance to start with, but you'll find this alleviates a lot of the pressure of the conversation. And each time you do it, you'll get better and better, and you can get a little bit more playful. So in the beginning, you'll be quite interview style. They went to Peru. How long was the flight? 4 hours. Well, it's not to Peru, but 4 hours. Do you like flying? You know, you can be a bit weird with it in the beginning, and that's fine, but you get a bit more playful. And then you throw in little bits of your own conversation. So they went to Peru. How long was the flight? 12 hours. I would never go to Peru. I'd love to. I've seen the pictures. It's beautiful, but I just can't sit still for that long. Yeah, and then they relate to it. You know, yeah, I mean, it was a struggle. I probably won't be going back anytime soon. Yeah, did you find it hard? Yeah. You know, and then you've got something in common, and then that's how you want the conversation to go. So if you've had a lot of resistance to social interaction in your life, you might actually start looking forward to it because it's quite fun. You get to learn a lot about people, and you get to make people feel good, which makes you feel good, and you'll recognize this.